So both your speech set standards, the document we were looking at that has the two different sides, the knowledge and the skill or the application side, and your TEKS are what comes, where your exam comes from. And every content exam is true for. Your exam comes from, it is both the product of your standards and your understanding of the TEKS, which is quite a lot. The standards are often a lot, but so are the TEKS, because the TEKS are everything that the students have to know. It's everything that the students should learn and should be able to do, all of their knowledge and skills that they should be able to do once they leave your classroom. And each of the content area TEKS begin in much of the same way, where they, it's like legislative, because this is the law. By law, we have to make sure that they get these things, that they learn these concepts, that they do these activities, and that they acquire these skills while they are in our classroom. And each of them begins with an introduction that usually usually is the driving force. It stays the same. It doesn't usually, it always stays the same regardless of grade level. So let's say, we're taking a look at the math TEKS. The math introduction for every grade level, whether it be K through, calculus, it's going to have the same introduction, because each content area is conceived with an overarching goal that the state has for the students. Like, what is the purpose of this content area, and what do we believe the students will be getting out of it, each one? And so I always read, whenever I do a session, a content specific, that introduction, because I think it's important, as you are reading the scenarios, as you are reading the questions and the answer choices, that you keep that introduction in mind, because each of the activities, the materials that you choose in the scenario, the strategies that you choose, or whatever it is that you choose for a correct answer, it should be in support, or in towards that goal, in a pursuit of that goal. So we're gonna take a look at what yours is. The goal. English language arts and reading, Texas essential knowledge and skills embody interconnected nature. Oh wait, this is English
This
one.
is, yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's English.
Why is this the high school one? Oh, wait. I think the reason is because it might be that you guys have the same, like it might be listed here. I know there was a reason. No. Reading. College readiness and study hall, no. Visual media and production, no. Contemporary media, no. Literary genres, no. Humanities. So oh, here it is. I'm sorry. I knew it was in this document somewhere. It's just so annoying, because this state puts these, I mean, it's a different content area, but like the TEKS are under this for
The
whatever
same
reason.
umbrella.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I mean, it happens with, it gets very, very tricky when you have like a trade or something, like trying to find the TEKS that are all of the TEKS for like, for instance, with this health science teacher that I was helping before. And then what was the other one I was doing last week? And we really we struggled, and we had to go to several different pages, there's so many different areas to find her TEKS, which is crazy. What was it for? Family consumer science. But she has so many classes. And then, so we found a list of like eligible courses that content area could teach. And then we had to go and like search for the different TEKS in there, so that, she had an accurate list, not so that she could memorize them, but that she knew what the goal was, you know what I mean? And what things the students were supposed to leave her classroom with having done, because she might see them as plausible answers in the answer choice. So let's take a look at yours. So in order to have full participation in the civic process, Students must have a good understanding of public dialogue. Students must learn the concepts and skills related to preparing and presenting public messages and, excuse me, to analyzing and evaluating the messages of others. Within this process, students will gain skills in reading, writing, speaking, listening, and thinking, and will examine areas such as invention, organization, style, memory, and delivery. So the purpose is to have more participation. We want to have students who can speak publicly, and for some people, that just, for some people, public means like, oh, I'm talking like at a restaurant ordering my meal, or like I'm talking to people I never met before. That's not even public speaking. There
Yeah.
are people who have difficulties even speaking in social settings, which we wouldn't even sort of identify as public speaking, and those instances are challenging and difficult. We know for a fact that across the board nationally, the United States has very low oral language proficiency. That means across the board, Americans in general, the older ones and the younger ones, have more limited vocabulary than, other countries, less listening skills, less public speaking, discourse, dialogue skills. So, how do we circumvent that? Certainly having more speech teachers. They did away with speech teachers like maybe a decade ago, I think, during the Bush administration, when he was governor, and they did less with it. They didn't do away with it, they just did less, and they made it not count anymore. And so we saw like a big decrease, and it was a hindrance to especially English language arts teachers, because we could do a lot of work together, the speech teacher and the English language arts. Because we also are tasked with the same tasks that you have, the same things you would have your students do, we also have them do. You just do it in a much more focused. We have to do,
Yeah.
reading strategies more importantly than their ability to public speak, right? So the, having the students be able to analyze messages, to create their own message, right? To be able to create their own oration, to their own message through articulation, having the vocabulary to do so, having the, prior knowledge of the effect of different, speech patterns and delivery types, and how that affects the effectiveness of the message, all of those things, and their ability to analyze other messages for credibility, for validity, and in the process utilizing this course in public speaking to help them refine, because they're already gaining those skills predominantly in their English language arts, hopefully before they come to any sort of you know what is it called, elective course for public speaking. But you will be building on and refining reading, writing, speaking, listening, and thinking skills.
Yeah.
And you're going to be in particular give focus to the idea of invention, organization, style, memory, delivery. So for for high school students whose first language is not English, the student's native language serves as a foundation for English language acquisition and language learning. So their own native language serves as a foundation for them, but so too are we helping them acquire that second language by making sure that we're defining content specific vocabulary, or providing them with videos, visuals, pictures, speeches of examples of certain vocabulary. So for instance, if you're going to give a certain vocabulary word dealing with like delivery or something, oration, and you're going to describe a particular type of delivery that an orator can give, and you want to illustrate that. And you can give a definition, right? You can give a definition and also say, like, Martin Luther King employed this strategy or whatever technique or of delivery. Show a picture of him. And you can also show an audio and then a video clip, do both audio and build up to it. Start first with, don't begin first with the video and then go to audio. Build on it. Visual, next level, let's listen to what it sounds like. And then let's take a look at the whole thing all together. To give them differentiation of instruction from different learning preferences, right? Differentiation of instruction means that you have given thoughtful care to your lesson for the people who you specifically have in your classroom at the time. What their learning preferences are, what their cultural background is, what their linguistic background is, what their skill level is, what their needs are, whether they be special need, whether they be gifted, that you've taken that into consideration when you are creating not only the lesson, but the activities, and the assessments. You're taking those things. Like, for instance, how would I take my students' skills and into consideration whenever I'm a teacher? Well, I knew one grade level because I started teaching in 2003, 2004, and the technology that was available there was not what we have at all now. I mean, it was not anything. We didn't have anything in the classroom. We were still using overhead projectors. Everything was still done by like bubbling things in. And so back then we had a lot more limitation as to the different things that we could layer in to reach the different students that were audio learners or visual, tactile. I mean, there were still many things you can do, but now there is just such a ridiculous plethora of more that there's no reason not to just provide all these examples and avenues for understanding, because this differentiation for particular students provides different pathways towards mastery or success in whatever learning objective you've decided. So for instance, this is where all of your learning objectives come from, right? When we're doing, I have a master's in particular, I have two masters, but one of my masters is in rhetoric, but in English. Because it's not in communication, but I also have a communication master's, and it's not about rhetoric, it's about organizational communication. So it's very strange, but my English degree is not about literature, instead it is about rhetoric. But rhetoric that is both written and spoken. These are your where you will come to get your objectives, your learning objectives. So one of the things that a student needs to be able to do is trace the development of the rhetorical perspective. In particular, they're expected to recognize the influence of classical rhetoric shaping Western thought. So any classical rhetorician that you're going to highlight, and what I have found, and I don't know if this is a good thing for me, where I am as a many-year teacher, at coming in 2023, I'll be 20 years in education, first teaching students, and now I teach teachers. But if I had to say what was most important, the objectives, your standards, and having these TEKES and understanding them, knowing that you probably aren't going to be reined in so much by a very stringent curriculum. Like, you'll get to decide sort of what rhetoricians that you utilize, because in English, it's a little bit more constrained, where like, there's an adoption of the text that you're going to read. There is still going to be an adoption of particular text, but speeches that you bring in, philosophers, rhetoricians, you're going to have a pretty wide breadth of that. And I don't know if that's going to be a good thing for you where you're starting, or if it's like a daunting thing if you'd rather have it laid out. But in any event, all you would have to do is Google one of these in order to begin to investigate what in the particulars should they know about it, should they be able to recognize, and from there get your objectives. One moment, please.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get a pickle for a very small, cute person.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So you'll have sort of free reign, but as long as you cover these concepts, you're good. You're good to go. And if you are unfamiliar with these as you read through them, certainly review, Google them and review them. I like for my students to print out both their TEKS, and this is a huge document, so please don't print all of it, just like the pages that you need, but
Yeah.
also your standards, and do a dialogue with the text, right? Annotate that text with your standards, highlight them, and sort of rephrase them in your own words, what they are mostly about. Like standard 1 is mostly about this. And then also in your TEKS, not that you need to memorize these things in any way, shape, or form, but you certainly need to be able to, like, for instance, use critical, deliberative, empathetic, and appreciative listening skills to analyze and evaluate speeches. Like, understand the difference between each of those and how that might look like what kind of a lesson would that look like in the classroom. You applying your skills from standards to make sure that they get this. Anything that needs to be looked up, certainly look it up, define it on there. And between, and you'll see it says, let me see. Our design, blah, blah, blah.
And this, you'll send it to me so that I can look it over?
This is in your actual, the Google Drive that we, you opened. Were you able to open it?
I opened it through the chat, but is
Yes.
it a specific, like, where would I access this Google Drive from?
It didn't open up in your, the file didn't open up?
No, I mean, it opened up. I clicked the link and it opened up to like another page. But if, for example, like I need to go back and review it or whatever.
Okay, so it's page 33. It starts on page 33, and it's labeled in the folder speech 7 through 12 TEKS. That's sort of like, I'm sorry, I labeled it that, and now I remember why I did that. I did that And knowing that the whole document itself is not all about speech, I should really put in the title that it's page 33. Let me make a note of that. Page 33.
33.
Yours starts on page 33. So from print 33, and then what I'm seeing is that each of these, public speaking 1, 2, and 3, they have the same TEKS. Typically, and we have communication applications, which is another one that I believe is designated to your content area.
Okay.
Oral interpretation as well.
We can't. We're going to outside.
I'll help you in just a bit, baby. And I think debate is also yours. I'm gonna have to. Is it?
Yeah, because there was a few debate questions because I did the practice exams through the TEKS website.
Yeah.
And on the exam, there's a few debate questions. So I know that it's that one. So it's from 33 and possibly past 39, right? Let me
Yes,
see.
ma'am. Yeah. So like refutation, all that stuff. This one here, independent study, is also yours. The communication skill, because it talks about. And this one is about, they have to do a selected topic for an independent study focused on a specific aspect of communication. So
Yeah.
Journalism is yours as well, right?
To be honest, it didn't give me that many questions of journalism, but I think it's intertwined into all of it. But I didn't have, on the practice exams, I didn't have neither independent study in journalism.
Okay.
Broadcast journalism, it asked me some very like vague questions.
Yeah, but I think journalism is also yours as well. If I were to look up like if I were to Google the list of courses that are eligible for this certificate, I want to say that, because I know that, I mean, I was an English teacher and I wasn't eligible to teach any journalism classes. And like, I'm not speech certified, but my master's is in communication, right? And I want to say that journalism is speech too. So it's important to look through some of those things. Even if you didn't get it last time, you might get, you know, te toca esta vez.
I think it's from 30 to, I'm just going to do 33 to 49 just to be on the safe side because, yeah, it goes on to like photojournalism and stuff like that.
Right. Advanced.
What does it mean 1/2 to 1 credit when it's in parentheses?
So 1/2 credit would mean that it was only a semester long course and you would get a new group of students that year. So for them, that it would only make up like 1/2 of a credit for them. And they would need another 1/2 credit from some other course in order to, you know.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to print this out in a bit. Okay.
Yeah, excellent. So knowing what type of speaking and listening skills they need, you're going to find them out in the TEKS, right? You're going to look at what different particular things. We already knew they need empathetic listening skills. They need what? Critical listening skills. There were so many other ones that I don't remember, but those are the particulars. And so if you have any confusion, or you couldn't explain it to someone, articulate what that was to someone sort of casually, then it would be something I would certainly revisit, that I would, you know, look over again.
Got it. I just feel, honestly, I feel like I passed the test, but here we are.
I know. But the thing is they're meant to be tricky. They are on purpose tricky. And everybody, there's people who are, you know, math experts. The person I was just with has been in the healthcare field forever, you know, and they take a health science test over everything that they've ever done and that they know so well, that they live. But it's not just about the content.
Yeah.
It's about you carefully reading the scenarios mindfully, looking at what sort of keywords and phrases are they using, because they give you clues as to how they want for you to apply your knowledge of speech, because how you prepare and the things that you prepare, the materials that you prepare, the topics you discuss are going to be different with seventh graders than they would be, let's say, with seniors, right? So taking that into consideration, the strategies that you would for sure include if you knew you had special ed students or English language learners, or then they'll tell you in the scenario if that's the case, if there is diversity within the classroom, um warranting you to pay attention to. And so if they say it, then certainly pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And you said, which one did you say gave you the most difficulty? You said
It was competency 5. So in the first domain, um, it would had to do with like the legal, the fair act use, all that.
okay, right. So I would certainly just make sure you understand the differences between them uh really well, recognizes rights and responsibilities of communicators in an interpersonal group, organizational, public, and mass communication context. And that seems like not that big of a deal, but it is. Like,
Yeah.
we do have responsibilities as people, and even in interpersonal groups, as far as communicative, like not to interrupt each other and not to like disparage all of these different things, and how we learn those things, and how what they guide and how we utilize them still. Analyze, well, in some context, the way that I see Congress talk to each other sometimes, I'm just like, I what is
Yeah.
happening, as far like there's such like a deterioration of you know communication levels, and then in this professional setting to see it like in a parliamentary, to see it like it's just sort of jarring. Anyway, analyze how modern public address influences public opinion and policy in a democracy. So understands ethical standards and major legal issues relevant to various communication contexts. So what you can say, what you can write about someone, types of pictures, different other type, what you know we all have a responsibility, even when we're talking about someone's intellectual property, and certainly their speech, their writing, their pictures and whatnot. But I would imagine that part was particularly easy for you. You said that there was another one that you had 2 out of 5. What were those?
I want to say it was. Let me see if I can pull it up really quick. I actually have it on my phone. Hold on. Because they weren't fairly bad. My test scores in my in my head. Um, and let me see quick. So it was. Let me see. Competency 4, and then 9. Um, and then 14.
So 4 is about the interpreting and analyzing and producing different types of media. And they do this already in their ELAR class. Like I said, I mean, that's something I did even as a 7th grade teacher, analyzing print images for messages. What does this picture that this photojournalist chose for this piece say about it? Why this picture? What is it saying? What is it doing? What is it evoking in us? And what is the message overall? So looking at those different things, understanding the roles and responsibilities of various media personnel, producers, directors, technicians, performers, and that's like right now specifically. It's interesting that we're going over this because right now in the news there's a trial going on about mass media, right? And it's Alex Jones from InfoWars, and he is being sued for defamation. Actually, he's already been like found he was guilty of defamation of the Sandy Hook massacre. And so one of the big questions that the lawyers, because I had it on while I was doing work yesterday, and I was watching the reruns of it because it's happening live in Austin, and they're going through the penalty phase, trying to see how much he actually owes the parents of these dead kids for saying that that they were actors and that Sandy Hook never happened and that it was just like this staged government thing so that people would take away Second Amendment, just like all these really ridiculous, crazy ideas that millions of people watched, saw, believed, and actually started sending hate mail to these parents of like their children who kindergartners died. And so he's in court right now. And one of the questions that the attorneys brought up is, do the producers, because Alex Jones and his company is, on the ones on trial, but also the producer who okayed the news stories that they ran, that they didn't vet out, that they didn't look to see if a video had been altered or edited, or if, the sources were appropriate. And so it's really kind of interesting that we expect the students in Texas and the teachers in Texas to understand the roles and responsibilities that come with, journalism at any level, even at a very amateur level, like you're teaching it to students and students are learning it. But their argument is that they're not real journalists. So like they didn't look at the sources. So they're sorry that they got it wrong or whatever, and that people were hurt by it, but they didn't do it on purpose. They just weren't good at their jobs. Like that is their argument. But in the profession of journalism, in the profession of education, that wouldn't be allowed, to not to perpetuate falsehoods, to defame someone without seriously vetting all sorts of sources before you're going to go out on TV in front of millions of viewers and publicly defame a group of people. So interesting that that's on there. I got off on a little bit of a tangent. Demonstrates knowledge and skills for interpreting, analyzing, evaluating media messages. Analyzes and evaluates media messages based on a variety of factors: content, nonverbal cues, objectivity, social and cultural context in which the media content is produced. That's a probably an important aspect that they try to trick people on. Whenever they're talking about diversity and culture, they want for you to, if it's in reference to the students, how can you best incorporate that complexity or their diversity into the lesson, into the classroom, right, to help make it more theirs. And on the flip side of it, as far as the content is concerned, how the cultural aspects and influence, how does this affect perception, sort of like the idea, and it's something that we covered in one of my classes where we looked at rhetoric, I don't know, I think it's senior AP when it's rhetoric and proposition. But we looked at just headlines, right, of mass shooters or arrests of particular kids. And when we looked at mass shooters like back from Columbine, headlines, multiple headlines, and we're just doing like a text analysis, and photo, but predominantly in cases where the assailant was white, the title was something like ex Boy Scout leader, creates havoc or something like that. It's like this positive light on them. And the photo that they assign with it is not their jail book, like I'm being booked in jail photo. It's like the picture of them on the debate team or the picture of them. But if we looked at headlines, it was like, troubled teen, back in handcuffs, and then it was always the booking photo. What is it called? Like the mugshot. Always the mugshot. Even if they were part of the basketball team, even if there was good things to be said about them, those things were purposeful. Somebody purposefully chooses a title. Somebody purposefully chooses a picture. Depending on what type of message they would like to send to people about culture and life in general, the messaging will be pervasive and consistent. And so we just looked at that. And then we looked at scholarly articles, because since I was an English teacher and also a graduate student at the time, we looked at scholarly articles about how actual scholars are looking at this. They study the way the media writes about crime, because sometimes they're not even doing it on purpose to be racist. It's just what we do now because of cultural norms, which means we have to be sort of mindful of the way that we're comfortable with particular biases, right? With ignoring particular biases in that we see and that we hold ourselves. Those types of conversations, really type of fun conversations, in my opinion. And what was another one you said? 13?
14. I think it was 14. Or I think it was. Yeah, because I got 2 out of 5 on that one.
Okay. So this has to do with designing speech instruction, designing and implementing. Can you make a plan, design a plan appropriate for all students, wherever they are, whatever grade level they give you, whatever diversity, whatever skill level, right? Because if they're new to public speaking, you're not going to have them go up there and give a 5-minute speech. First of all, 5-minute speeches are hard for even seasoned orators, right? That's a lot of time to be talking. So, are you creating things appropriate for who you have based on what research says is best practice, right? If you are going to be introducing new concepts, whether they have to do with rhetoric, whether they have to do with journalism, whether they have to do with photojournalism, whether they have to do with, whatever, nonverbal communication. If you are introducing new vocabulary, even if it's not content specific, it's like academic content specific, like logical fallacy, and you define what a logical fallacy is. That's content specific. But like, if you have a high population of ELL students, which in the Valley, typically we do have a high, then you might have to define more than just, the content specific, so that everybody gets comprehension of the lesson, so that everybody understands those key concepts and ideas, has comprehension, and is able to apply those in whatever activities you design. So it's you designing and then your implementation of the speech instruction. Your implementation consists of, how are you doing it? How are you applying your design? How are you yourself communicating, right? Are you communicating your ideas well? Are you providing different avenues? Like, do you have whatever you're saying on the overhead? I always say overhead, but like on the
projector, whatever.
Yeah, overhead projector, right? Overhead projector. And or even make copies for the ones that are tactile, like the directions of what they're doing, modeling for them, providing examples. So A says the teacher knows how to teach students to apply systematic strategies for selecting topics to research. Like you giving them strategies to narrow down their areas of interest, to locate, gather, analyze, evaluate, and use information from a variety of texts and technological sources. And typically we provide students with a lot of access to intranet, um, you know, catalogs that have so many articles, so many different publications that are already there for them, that are, you know, high quality, not, you know, sort of garbage
Yeah.
media that you can utilize a lot of time. And I like to go to that first, you know. Not all districts have a huge collection, but some of the bigger districts definitely have several subscriptions for the entire district, teachers included, to access to a ridiculous amount of just resources, right? They have to. It's literally by law. The TEA says, especially in areas of need, how are you, you know, circumventing this area of need? And many of those resources are to circumvent areas of need. So we do have that for us as well to use, and that would be where I go to first. But we want to help them evaluate, like, what makes this article, this text, this picture, a credible, you know, article source. Knows how to teach students to use a systematic process to organize speeches for various purposes, logical, emotional, and ethical proofs and conclusions, rhetorical strategies for clarity, sign tones, trends, all of those things. And they'll be in greater detail, probably in the TEKS, where you have to, they each of the ones that they are responsible for will be listed there. They just listed a few of them as an example for you there. But the other things they will have to know are, you know, they're in more detail in that, the TEKS document, which again is this one right here.
Yeah.
But not until 33.
33 to 40.
And oh, this is the study guide for the, I don't know why I put that there. I know. Okay, I'm gonna have to let you go. I just got my little stop, what is it? My little stopwatch here has come in. But if you have any questions,
Okay.
please let me know, and
Okay.
I'll be happy to help you with anything.
Okay.
And do I
So
need to let someone know for the next exam opening?
that what? I'm sorry.
Do I need to let them know to open your next exam?
I was under the assumption that it was you who was supposed to allow me to retake the test.
Oh, no, I decide. So yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. But so we've met already, and you're going to go over
Restudy the
these,
TEKS.
right? You're going to go over these areas of particular need and interest. And so just in the you know, because I want for you to do it as soon as possible, I know you're going to be doing the things you need to be doing.
Yeah.
You're going to reach out to me for any areas of clarification. So I feel comfortable, if you feel comfortable, asking Miss Garza to open that exam so that you can set a date and have a more distinct plan of action. Like, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is how I'm going to study, because you already have a date. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Set. I mean, that doesn't mean I want you to test next week, but I mean, you know, so
Yeah, just so I know in my mind to be ready by a certain time and not slip.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I will let them know, and then by the end of the day, you should be able to look at the different test dates. Let me know so I can, like, I like to keep it in my head, and then I'm going to be available via this video link every Tuesday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11. So
Okay.
like if you wanted to go over questions or you had a question before, because Teacher Builder pays for one free one-on-one where we look at your scores and do a plan of action, all that stuff hour. And then after that, you guys have to pay out of pocket. It is at a substantial discount, but it's still $60.
Yeah.
Before I took over as lead instructor, you know, I just helped people who you know, did not who failed an exam attempt, but then just they only had access to me once and then that was it. So now
Yeah.
you'll have access to me during Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
If you needed to talk to me, just pop in using the same link and we'll go over whatever it is that you need.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. You have a beautiful rest of your day and we'll get it this next time. We're going to get it.
Yes. Yes, I do. I have faith in myself. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.